And I got this PowerPoint and I'm not gonna talk about it. Okay. Okay, we're recording. Okay, so if nobody has any questions, mapadayan lang ko. Yeah, because these are topics that are very interesting. Or I'm very much interested in. Okay. So this is a report prepared by the Cebu Leads Foundation, and this is about mobility or urban mobility. So mobility talks about not just like traffic and what they call this vehicles, but how do people move around in cities. So this statistic here on the screen, 70% in Metro Manila use public transportation, but only 20% of the public space, like the streets and the roads, are allocated for them. Is this the first slide? Yeah, this is the first slide. So why is there such a big imbalance where commuters are 70% of the road users, but they're only given 20% of the road space? So that's a big equity issue. So there has been a kind of master plan study of the urban transportation system. Sorry, burping, in Cebu. This was published March 2019. I think this should be available online. And basically, these are just numbers that say there's now sort of 1.3 million sort of commuters or like users of the road, and what do you call this? We need to design for them. Okay, so this is a situation in Metro Cebu. Let me just give you a context over here. I think it's much better if I use this image here. Metro Cebu, or Cebu City. And this is a feature that you can use on your end as well in Google Maps. I'm sure you're all familiar with the traffic button. So let me show that again. For those not familiar, if you click here on the bottom left, you have terrain, traffic, transit, biking, and more. So we were very interested in traffic because we're talking about transportation. And let me just zoom in a bit. And then it's currently set to live traffic. You would want to set that to typical traffic. And you can put that on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, any day of the week. And you can also adjust the time, like morning rush hour and afternoon or evening rush hour. Notice how it's currently set on Monday, and this is Cebu City over here. Let me turn on the terrain so you can see. Yes, go ahead.
Share screen.
Oh, sorry. Wala ko share screen. Sorry. Thank you. I didn't notice. It's always when I'm like trying to. It's always an after a break. I forget to share the screen. Anyway, let me go back and show those slides. So most important slide is that most people in the Philippines are commuters, but only 20% or less is allocated for their kind of road space. Like how much space do commuters get? Like how much space is there for public transportation, for buses, for jeepneys, maybe even tricycles? And then there's some numbers here that I'm not too familiar with, but it means that there's an increasing population in Metro Cebu, the Metro Cebu area, and we need to design for them. And then this diagram over here in red are like traffic congested areas, or like where traffic is like too slow for the people using these roads. And we can double check that with Google Maps. So in Google Maps, you have the default setting where you can see the satellite view. And you also have this traffic button here. So if you hover over the map button here, you can turn on the traffic, and then you can also turn on terrain. So for those not familiar with Cebu City, it's an island province, and towards the center of the island is where we have our mountainous regions. So if you're I think we're all architects here, so we know that developing on sloped land is more expensive than developing on flat land. So most of the development in Cebu City happens here on the coastal areas. So this is where the urban areas are. So the biggest sort of urban areas in the Cebu province is Cebu City, Mandaue City, and Lapu-Lapu City, followed by Talisay, the municipality of Talisay, Mindanilla, Naga, and then to the north, Liloan, Consolacion, and Compostela. And because all of the work is being done in Cebu City and Mandaue City, understandably, all of the traffic going to like the city center and coming back is very, very congested. So let me just switch this to Monday peak hour, let's say 8 a.m. Still pretty much green. But when you go to the afternoon or evening rush hour, everything turns orange. How much, whether the speed is 30 kilometers per hour or 50 kilometers per hour, we don't know. It's just fast and slow here in Google Maps. But it gets even slower in the dark red areas. If I zoom in here in the city center, we have a bit of mostly orange, not so much red. Some here. So this is Ayala Business Park. So it looks like that. So these are where the malls are, a bunch of the offices as well. And you see some I guess, low-income settlements around this area. So in Cebu City, there's a lot of these like shack houses or not really standard housing, sort of sprinkled all over the city. So if you zoom out, you see all of those like red roofs. So those are all residential areas. And then the bigger blocks are either institutional or industrial areas. So you see most of the residents are scattered in Cebu City. So you have a lot of people needing to get to the city center, whether they're coming from the neighboring island or like the north or south of the province, and they all sort of converge in the center. So I'll just show you Tuesday, still pretty much red, evening rush hours, etc. Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Saturday is a bit lighter as expected. But strangely, the morning rush hours is a lot lighter than the afternoon or the evening rush hours. This could mean that more people are going out in the afternoon and evenings, maybe for recreation and not for work. So it might be likely if the morning sort of rush hour is less, you can assume that not a lot of people are going out for any other purpose other than work. So these are the people working, and this is what it looks like when everyone who's working comes out at like 8 a.m. In the evening, this is everyone who's working, who's coming home, and everyone else who wants to like move around in the city. So I'm guessing that's why the traffic is more in the evening rush hour than the morning rush hour. So I'm not super familiar with Manila, but let's just take a look at what's going on here. So Manila evening rush hour is still, it's not so bad actually. There's some red areas here, like along this, what is this road called? It's just called Service Road. So I'm not from Manila. I'm not super familiar with the names of the roads here. This is Epifanio de los Santos Avenue. So lots of red here. This is on a Wednesday at like 5 p.m. Let's move it to like 6 p.m. So that evening rush hours, it becomes even red. So it's even worse in Manila than it is in Cebu, as expected. Let's take a look at the morning rush hour. Is it less than the afternoon and evening rush hour? A little bit less. Let me zoom out a bit more green. And if I move it back to 6 p.m., there's more red. It seems like this area here, a bit north of Makati, is always green. And maybe someone from Manila can explain why. But do we have anyone from Manila? I think we have one like earlier. Crystal? Or was it Catherine?
I used to stay in Manila for 3 years.
Mm-hmm. So how was it there?
Probably sir yung sa green area, baka it's around Ayala area.
Let's see.
Traffic.
Is it? Yeah, I can't see any Ayalas here. More siya ka ng housing na area. It's all ka ng subdivision looking places.
Oh, baka yun yung gilid ng EDSA? Yeah, parang private na subdivision.
Mm. So it makes sense, no, na not much one traffic coming in here because the population is not very high because these are like private housing. So most of the traffic's probably here in the not so kanang um, the more kanang congested areas.
Yeah,
Ah,
usually mga EDSA, ganun, sir.
mm,
Super traffic.
okay. Thank you for the insight. Let's see. Who else hasn't gone yet? Can you volunteer your city so we can take a look at the traffic situation? Manaman si Catherine and Crystal. Anyone else? I think we had one from Davao. Who was that? I forget the name. Do you have that student from Davao?
Yes po, sir. Ako po, sir.
Okay. Who's this?
Joyce po, sir.
Joyce. Can you name? What's that? Your area you're familiar with sa Davao?
San Pedro Street po, sir.
Let's do San Pedro. San Pedro Poblacion District.
Yes po, sir.
Okay. So, there's this purple. I don't know what purple means. Maybe no data. So this is Wednesday. Poblacion Street. Yeah, Poblacion Street is this purple.
Okay.
Okay, so it's highlighting that. And let's see. Let's look at morning rush hour, like 6 a.m., 7 a.m. It's still green. And then the evening rush hour, it becomes orange and red. So what's your experience in this area?
Sir, pag peak hours kasi, sir, yung mga tao is parang yung ginatawag nila na zombie apocalypse daw, sir ba? Maraming, parang ganon, sir.
Oh, okay. Is it
Maraming
because,
tao sa road,
bakit
sir.
zombie apocalypse?
Kasi parang yung mga tao pag peak hours, pag uwian na, gina-occupy nila yung one part or one lane ng road, sir. Tapos, yes, sir, merong ganyang instance, sir. Usually, sa mga university na, sir, area, yung maraming students.
So they're on the street now waiting for the
Oh,
jeep or
yes.
whatever. Do you guys have buses?
Yes, sir. Pero gina-incorporate pa ngayon, sir. Parang,
So mostly
bago pa lang siya.
jeepney,
Yes po, sir.
tricycles.
Yes po.
There's also tricycles, more predominantly.
Ang tricycle, sir, kaya hindi sila ginapayagan magamit ng main road. Parang for auxiliary roads lang sila, sir. Bawal sila
Okay. Sige. So it's almost as bad as Manila. There's more red here. I think it's because you have more people as well. Okay, the more people, the more traffic.
Yes,
Kaya nga mag-zombie apocalypse, dami tao. Okay. Can anyone else volunteer a different area that's not Cebu, that's not Manila?
In our place, sir, South Cotabato, Coronadal City, sir.
Cotabato. What's the name of the city?
Coronadal, sir.
Corona.
K, sir. It starts with letter K. Coronadal.
There.
Yes, sir.
Let's take a look. So it's a bit quieter. Expected kay gamay raman ang development, but you still have reds here. What's going on here, if you're familiar?
Because, sir, our place, sir, ano na siya, regional center na siya, sir. So, still.
Hello? Putol.
At this point, sir, kay ang mga immigrants, gadaghan na sila ang daghan.
So this area, this Marble Columbia Road becomes very busy.
This red area, sir, is along the public market, sir.
Oh yeah, here.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So there you have it. It's pretty much the same all over the Philippines, where there's a lot of people, the traffic follows. So what do we do about that? So I'll go back to my slides over here. So just a summary, when there's increased demand due to popular growth, there's like congestion, and congestion happens when there's inefficient road network and public transportation services, and also inadequate traffic management. So they did like our analysis of the traffic demand in Cebu City. Let me see. it's actually going down. In 2014, the generation and attraction trip by LGU went down, like from 4,500 trips to about almost 4,000, just a little bit, and maybe minus 300. Lapu-Lapu City is decreasing as well in like trip generations, while Mandaue City is increasing. So Mandaue is here a bit on the right side next to Cebu, and Lapu-Lapu is this island over here. This diagram here shows how many sort of where are the trips coming from. So on the left, I'm assuming that's 2014, and on the right, that's 2017. Basically, the thicker the red line is, the more trips are occurring. So most people are moving from Cebu City here to Mandaue City over here. So let me just make that bigger. No, it's a screenshot. Okay. And one thing that I want to highlight is that around 60% in Metro Cebu, Cebu's population use public transportation. So what is the breakdown of that public transportation? In green is the tricycle, in purple are the jeepneys, and in sort of this teal color is the bus. It seems like the jeepney sort of decreased from 2014 to 2017, and the increase on tricycle and the buses. And over here, the red and blue are motorcycles and car, which I think mostly like look consistent or didn't really change. And then Cebu City ranks first in terms of trip attraction and generation, meaning a lot of people come to Cebu City from the neighboring municipalities. Okay. So Cebu City has the highest trip generation compared to other LGUs. So Cebu City has 3,528, where everyone else is like 1,700. And in Lapu-Lapu City, 1,300 trips in Mandaue City. And then the rest of the municipality doesn't even reach like 500 trips, maybe except City of Naga over here. Okay, so that's 3.52 million there, not 3.52 thousand. It's like in the thousands, the graph. Okay, so that's a lot of trips. So what is sort of the breakdown of this analysis? So the total number of vehicles is increased from 1.17% from like 2014 to 2017. Number of vehicles from the west is increased, and like modal share of motorcycle is decreased and car is increased. So slightly the car increase over here. On the lower right side, you see the 2017 statistics above the 2014 statistics. So motorcycles decreased from 50% to 44%. Cars, private cars increased from 14% to 20%. But over here on the rightmost side, you see that what they call it, jeepneys and buses pretty much stayed the same, while truck sort of trips increased by 2%. And then tricycle trips decreased like from 16 to 11%. And public transport road usage is only 10%. So that's the amount of vehicles that are using that road at an average amount of time. Like basically they measured or checked how many types of vehicles were using those roads, and only 10% of that were vehicles that were designated as public transport. And private vehicles occupied 79% of the roads. So again, there's that imbalance where private vehicles are taking up most of the road. And the problem with private vehicles is that most of the time there's only two, maybe even one person in the car, and the car is about 2.5, maybe 2x3. That's like 6 square meters of road, and you're only putting one person in there. So if you have a lot of people, the road fills up very quickly. So the only solution is really to sort of divide or kind of make public transportation more attractive so that you use less road space. And I'm not saying that road widening is not an option. It is an option, but it's just more difficult. So until such time that road widening becomes easier, we really need to provide more public transportation. So over here in Cebu City, these are the different municipalities and cities included in the study. Cebu City has 20% sort of motorcycles, 22% sort of cars, and then 48% public transportation with 6% tricycle and 2% truck. So these are modal shares by LGU. And the previous slide here was the whole province. And this is like the breakdown of those provinces. So you see some provinces have different, what do you call this? Increased use of public transportation. But for all provinces, you can see majority of it is like, or maybe even half is the modal share is still public transportation. So within public transportation vehicles, like a jeepney, maybe you can fit 10 people, sometimes even 20 people. And then they're basically using the same amount of space as one car where only one person is sitting. So it's not a very efficient mode of a modal share. Okay, so this one, I'm not so sure what this is, so I'll just skip it. But over here, this kind of shows like the population that uses the roads. So over here in Cebu City, labor force population of 15 to 60-year-olds in Metro Cebu from 2007 to 2015. So there are more, basically there are more workers now because there are more people than there were like almost 10 years ago. So in 2007, like more than 10 years ago, the labor force was in Cebu City was about 500,000 people, which made up 35% of the total Metro Cebu population. And then now it's here, it's 560,000 people, but it's no longer sort of the highest labor force. It's now it went down from 35% to 31%, but the other areas increased. So we have basically a total number of like, let's see. Metro Cebu, the population increased from 1.4 million to 1.7 labor force. And let's break down that labor force. What kind of people are the number of people working in the Philippines? What are their jobs? So not the Philippines, sorry, Cebu City. So in Cebu City, 41,000 are managers. Most likely those guys are using private vehicles. Professionals also, like doctors, whatever, 33,000. Technicians and associate professions, 24,000. So those people are likely using their own vehicles. Clerical and support workers, maybe half of them are driving like their own vehicles and half of them are using public transportation. That's just like my opinion. You could have a different opinions, like just based on what I see in Cebu City. Service and sales. So these are the clerks, the people who work behind the counter. Very likely they don't own their own, they don't own their private vehicle, so they'll be using public transportation. Skilled workers, agricultural, forestry, and fishery. Most likely they can't afford their own private cars, or they're going to use public transportation. Craft and then related trades, plant and machine, elementary occupations like teachers. Some of us have their own cars, some of us don't. But basically, if you, I'll print screen this. Go to paint. So basically, I'm really guessing that the only people who are using private cars are these people here. The managers, the professionals, those with the means to buy their own car. Probably just until, let's just be generous and include these guys too. And then those who are using public transportation are these guys here. Armed forces, and I don't know why there's 700 not reported. But if you just look at the numbers, the total private vehicles will be breakdown like 40 plus 40, 80,000 plus 30, 110,000 plus another 30, 150,000 people. And then over here, we have 84 just in sales and services alone, plus another 10, that's 90,000, plus another 40, that's 1,300, and another 50, about 1,000. 800. So more or less, it's about like 60-40 maybe. So more or less, it's kind of like pans out. Total of 365,000 sort of commuters, not really commuters, but users of the road in Cebu City. And the different sort of municipalities and cities also have different numbers. But if you look down here, let's see, the total percentage is down here. So that's for private users, that's 9 plus 9, 18 plus 7. Let's see. Ako lang yung math. And bring out the calculator. So 9 plus 9 plus 7 plus 6. That's about 31% ready. And then over here, sales, skilled workers, crafts, and like plant machine operators, elementary occupations is 19. So they should add up to 70 plus 4 plus 15 plus 16 plus 0.3. Oh, it's about 54. I think there's like I must have missed out my math here somewhere. But anyway, something like that, 60-40 split on private and public transportation. Okay, next slide here. So you have basically a lot of people waiting for public transportation that is sort of like not enough for them. So you have, as Joyce mentioned earlier, or was it, yeah, I think it was Joyce, mentioned earlier that you have these like people waiting on the streets because there's so many new workers, so many new like increased population and not enough public vehicles to serve them. So this also adds to traffic congestion and like basically the decrease of efficiency in the mobility in urban areas. Sorry. So in Metro Cebu, this is the split. About 60% are using public transportation, but only 10% of the road is given to public transportation. So hopefully in this summit and Monday, I can report to you what they talked about. So maybe you can use those ideas in your own local community. So the current process is something like this, where we have the study done, and this summit will be on Monday and Tuesday in Ayala, Cebu, and Seda, Cebu. We'll have people from DOT, NEDA, the Move as One coalition, some people from Singapore as well. And the workshop will be like these people coming together, and hopefully we'll identify some possible projects and practices which you can use in your local areas as well. And yeah, and here's some other sort of statistics. What time is it? I'll just wrap this up very quickly. So before pandemic, in dark blue, in light blue, what do you call this? This is 2019. You see most of the traffic flow, or like the traffic flow is around 60,000. No, this is number of traffic jams. So about 60,000 per month. So this January 1, February. So this is the year 2019 in light blue. In dark blue is the year 2020. When the ECQ was enforced, you see a sudden drop of traffic jams, obviously because there's no longer cars in the road. But surprisingly, when the GCQ and ECQ were sort of relaxed, you don't see the immediate number of traffic jams anymore. It's definitely almost like from 60K in 2019 traffic jams, now it's only like 40. So what they're trying to say is that more and more people are using public transportation. So probably because of the loss of economic opportunities, like the loss of jobs, that to sell a few things, they can't afford their cars, or they're moving to more sort of cheaper modes of transportation. In Cebu, this is until like August 1, or maybe like about July-ish, middle of July maybe. The number of traffic jams has reduced significantly, even when the MECQ was sort of like released here in July 15. So still very minimal number of traffic jams. So this change is significant. So maybe, just maybe, improving public transportation, because that happened all over the Philippines, I think. We had in Cebu in particularly, we have now more buses, but not the big kinds. Some of them are the very big buses. We have like smaller they look like multi-cabs, but they have like, they're air conditioned. There's more space to sit. So maybe that impact has been beneficial. Maybe this is one sort of silver lining to the pandemic. And then over here, it's a graph showing daily COVID-19 cases and traffic flows across 3 Metro Manila municipalities with the highest number of cases. So in the red line, we have daily COVID cases. In the blue line, we have traffic flow. So apparently, as you would guess, because more people are using public transportation, and when you release the ECQ and GCQ, more people are traveling together. Most of the time, protocol is not followed in these like public transportation options like jeepneys and buses. So when the traffic flows increase, the COVID cases also increase because more people are exposed to each other. And then over here, Cebu City seems to be unique or like an exception to the rule. Traffic flows remained pretty low in blue, but the cases still kept going up. So maybe Cebuanos are very good at like not using transportation and just walking to other places. I don't know what's going on here. Why is in Cebu City, COVID is going up, but traffic flow is not. So maybe they're just walking to infected people. I really don't know what's happening. So hopefully, when I get to the summit, I can ask, why is this happening in Cebu? Okay, frequented locations. As you might expect, most of the travel is happening to residential areas, people coming to and from work, followed by grocery and pharmacy, so buying foods. Third is workplaces. Fourth is like people going to parks, retail and recreation. And then fifth is the transit station. So most of it really is people moving from one place of residence to another, maybe visiting family, and then buying food, and then going to work. And then over here, I'm not so sure about these bus routes. These are more for the transportation engineers. But this is just highlighting how even in Cebu City, this is the Guadalupe area, the highest or the most populated barangay in Cebu City. There is not enough public transportation. So you see similar thing happening to Davao where people are waiting on the sidewalk. It's not as bad, but it's still a problem. So the different issues are in Cebu City: increased private vehicles leading to heavier traffic congestion, health and transportation crisis. So more COVID infections despite not really increase in traffic or like transportation, travel time, I mean. And then the unavailability of public transport. This is like a big problem as we saw earlier in Davao. And then the impact of health. So if people slowly go back to using the old way of public transportation, like these jeeps that are not like properly spaced out, no protocol, it might make COVID-19 worse. But I think for the most part, COVID-19 in Cebu City has been going down. I think we're all down to like 100, maybe 200 cases per day or per week, something like that. Generally, in the global trend, COVID-19 is going down. It's just that we have some some outliers who haven't gotten vaccinated, and also some breakthrough cases or breakout cases. I don't know, people who did get vaccinated but still get the COVID sort of disease anyway. So there's a lot of like gray area there. But ideally, if public transport is improved, we can sort of help out everyone. And if public transport is still inefficient, there will be no choice except for people to walk or to cycle. So we might as well prepare cycling lanes as well, because it's definitely cheaper than buying new buses, rerouting new jeepney routes or new vehicles, etc., etc. So this is really the advocacy or the agenda of Cebu Leads. They really want to push cycling lanes, which I think is a good idea still. So they showed a report here from the Department of Labor and Employment, DOLE. So workers want more secure bike lanes. Maybe this is more from Manila, but I can see this happening in Cebu City as well. Maybe in Davao you can see that. So the Cebu Leads Foundation did a 2-day bike count. This was really more, from what I know, this was more in the urban core area, the Heritage District. and they can see that there are 13,000 cyclists counted, 40,000 pedestrians counted, and 17 others. So this is just a breakdown of what the cyclists look like. Most of them are male, only 1% are female. Most of them wear helmets, that's 62%, while only 38% don't wear helmets. And then the pedestrian sort of, who are these pedestrians? 53% of them are female, so mostly kanang mothers or kanang the female leaders of the household who need to go buy stuff. And then also maybe like 46% male. So that is just a stereotype. I'm just guessing. I didn't do the count, but you can see this breakdown here. So they're counting these to see like who is the target market there, who could possibly be kanang cycling instead of walking. So currently in Cebu City, cycling is very male dominated. Maybe we need to do something here to make it more friendly for the female population to cycle. Maybe it's really just a safety issue. Like if you're a woman, I have a lot of like, not really a lot. I know some of my female friends who worry about safety when they go out to do their shopping. And in general, there's still that kanang stereotype where it's unsafe to go out. If you're a woman, there's like catcalling, all those like inappropriate behaviors, aside from theft, all those like criminal activities that would probably be easier if you were male, but that's just the gender stereotypes in the Philippines. And then over here are they're just showing off the different workshops they did about cycling and like sort of different headways on promoting biking culture. So if your local community doesn't have a biking culture yet or a cycling community, maybe it's time to make one. Maybe it's not appropriate for your area. Maybe the solution is something else. But one of the things that's like currently gaining traction, like you have here, Cordova, another municipality in Cebu, implementing bike lanes. We have several municipalities in the Cebu province like approving or trying out new bike lanes, and they've been like meeting ever since the start of the pandemic. So that's pretty much it for possible solutions, cycling. It may work for your community, it may not, but it's really all about determining what's there, what is the existing context, and then finding the appropriate solution. Okay. Ed Sazing. Okay. Any questions? I think I can stop presenting here. It's already 8 o'clock. I'll stop recording here. I'll upload the videos